This unit is conductors, capacitors, and dielectrics. So we start off with conductors revisited, taking a look at them, sort of summing up what we've learned through what we've learned about field and potential. Recall that within a conductor, in electrostatic equilibrium of course, the electric field must be zero. The field must be zero because otherwise the charges inside the conductor would flow. And of course there always are some charges inside a conductor. So if the electric field were non-zero, there'd be motion of charge and we wouldn't be in electrostatic equilibrium. This bit becomes really important. Later on, we'll be talking about circuits where we put a continuous potential across a conductor, and then we get continuous charge flow. So this is all consistent, but important to remember. But if the electric field is zero, then between any 2 points in the conductor, connected by any arbitrary path, we would have a change in voltage, delta V, going from A to B, which is always minus the integral from A to B of E dot dr, but E is zero, so the integral would be zero. That is, points A and B have the same potential. Yet they were arbitrary, so the entire conductor must be an equipotential region. This entire place is an equipotential surface. It's not really a surface, it's a region. It's a whole zone that has the same potential. Here we have a picture from your textbook, which is the potential in an electric field near a charged spherical conductor. Outside the spherical conductor, of course, the shell theorem tells us it looks like a point charge at the center. So we have the 1 over r squared law, which gives us a 1 over r potential. But inside, the electric field abruptly drops to zero, and therefore the voltage becomes constant. By the way, this discontinuous change in the E field is exactly because any surface charges appear there. All right, so if we've charged the conductor, then all the charges are on the surface. And remember, electric fields end or start at charges, so the field can be discontinuous there. We've seen this figure before, but just to sum it up and add everything in here, for an arbitrary conductor, all excess charge lives on the surfaces. That surface is an equipotential. In fact, the whole region is an equipotential. The electric field inside is zero. The interior inside is all at the same potential. The external electric field ends up having to be perpendicular to the surface, and the surface charge density and electric field strengths are largest near sharp corners. That's where we get most points, most charges living, and therefore we get the strongest field. Remember, the idea is that these will rearrange themselves so that the interior is zero and the exiting field is perpendicular. Just summed up again, nothing new on this slide really. All excess charge surface, equipotential, electric field inside is zero, perpendicular field, strongest field is sharp corners. This is where you tend to get discharges in the air, because remember, the air will break down if the electric field is more than, I think, about 100,000 volts per meter. And so since the electric field is strongest around the tip, that's where we get breakdown. Once we do that, the air becomes a conductor, and so we can get the actual discharge. Maybe most spectacularly shown here, because the electric field inside the conductor is zero, if you have a metal-bodied car, and be careful because a lot of cars today are not metal-bodied, but if you have a behemoth from the 50s and you let lightning strike it, or in here a case a Van de Graaff discharge similar to lightning strike it, the person inside is perfectly fine. You can see the charge goes down here, flows through the conductor, and then exits the tire, but does not have any field inside, so the person is okay. Electric fields around conductors kind of conform themselves to the shape of the conductors. In other words, like we have a sphere and a plate. Near the plate, we know that the fields just come out straight, perpendicular to the plate. Near the sphere, of course, we get radial, and the electric lines kind of merge themselves so as to make both those conditions possible, so that nearby we mostly see the sphere or we mostly see the plate. But the intervening region is really hard to compute in general, and so we need to keep that in mind. If we can draw the equipotentials, as we have done here, we know the field lines will always be perpendicular to them, so that's one way of trying to figure out where they are. All right, metal wires are attached to the terminals of a 3-volt battery. What is the potential difference between 1 and 2? Since voltage is independent of path, it must be the same that going this way is the same as just going straight across. And so going this way, we can see a change of 3 volts. So that must be what we get going across as well. And so it's 3 volts. All right, metal spheres 1 and 2 are connected by a metal wire. What quantities do spheres 1 and 2 have in common? And the important word here, of course, is metal spheres conducted by metal wire, so they're all conductors. And when they're conductors, they must be a conductor has the same potential everywhere, and now we have really one conductor. This whole thing is one conductor, so the potential must be the same everywhere on it, so we end up with that they have the same potential.